don't have no felonies. I'm not crazy or none of that. It's like, I just want the truth, and it's so hard to get it from the courts. And seems like Jay-Z don't want to say anything. So, I don't want to see him go down for something that you could have just got taken care of. That's it.
We're watching a story explode that feels way bigger than a simple family fight. It's like a ticking bomb ready to go off. Jay-Z's alleged secret son isn't just asking to be recognized anymore. He's saying he's got evidence so explosive it could tear down entire empires. According to his claims, and what people close to him are whispering, this isn't some rumor. It's a full-on threat to hip-hop's biggest power players. He's said to be holding recordings linked to Sean Diddy Combs, private parties, behind-the-scenes videos, and moments described as deeply personal and incriminating. Sources claim these files came from people who call themselves victims, and even from insiders who once worked for the stars. But here's the catch. He allegedly got them under one strict condition: to use them in court to take down both Jay-Z and Diddy once and for all. This isn't just street gossip anymore.
I think that they don't want, if they was in any of those freak-off tapes, if they played a part in any of those Diddy sessions, they don't want it to get out to the general public to make up their brain.
It's being framed like a declaration of war against two men who helped build hip-hop's culture and empire for over 30 years. The alleged son's positioning himself as both a witness and a whistleblower, claiming his footage will reveal manipulation, intimidation, and silence that stretch far beyond celebrity scandals. He's painting himself as a voice for people who say they were wronged in that world, a world where fame and money supposedly bought protection. But even with that, the public split. Some people online now believe Jay-Z might be using his influence and fortune to bury the evidence or flip the narrative, accusing his own son of extortion. It's a wild twist. A son saying he wants justice, and a father accused of trying to buy peace no matter the price. And just when the tension couldn't get higher, it blew up even more after Diddy's conviction on October 3rd, 2025. The man once known as Brother Love got hit with 50 months behind bars after a federal jury found him guilty on 2 counts of transportation for intimate services under the Century-Old Man Act. The hip-hop world hasn't stopped buzzing since that verdict dropped. The verdict didn't come out of nowhere. It hit after 8 intense weeks in court that had everyone on edge. Prosecutors brought forward 2 major witnesses, Cassie Ventura and another woman known only as Jane. Both described being taken across state lines for what the court labeled illegal acts, with some of those moments reportedly filmed during wild events insiders called freak-offs. The testimonies were chilling, stories filled with control.
I think Sandbank and Freed were in the unit that was 1 floor above mine. So in terms of like the setting, it's a fairly decent chance that the room I'm describing is similar to where Diddy is.
Blurred consent and cameras rolling when things crossed the line. When the judge finally spoke, he made it clear this case needed to send a message to the whole industry. He handed down a heavy sentence, calling it a warning shot to anyone hiding behind fame. Diddy, now 55, responded with a short letter saying, "I lost my way." But those words didn't sit right with the public because just weeks later, reports surfaced that he'd been caught at FCI Fort Dix making a homemade drink brewed from fruit and soda, an act that made people question how sincere that apology really was. Even from behind bars, Diddy's name still circles around dozens of civil cases filed by men and women who say they were forced or manipulated into his private gatherings. Prosecutors mentioned that many of those same events included some of the biggest names in music, people now tangled in this fresh controversy. And if the alleged son's recordings really show what he claims, they could tie Jay-Z straight into this mess, not just as a bystander, but as someone connected to acts courts have already ruled criminal. Jay-Z's silence hasn't helped calm the storm either. After Diddy's sentencing, attention turned right back to him over an unresolved civil lawsuit claiming he and Diddy assaulted a 13-year-old at an after-party following the 2000 Video Music Awards. The anonymous plaintiff's filing accuses both men of being present, substances being used, and the incident being recorded. Jay-Z's lawyers fired back, calling the case a blackmail attempt, while Diddy's team said it was pure fiction. But that same year, 2000, has now become the breaking point in this new wave of allegations, because the alleged son says his evidence evidence includes recordings from that exact period, footage that could show who was really there and what went down once the main cameras stopped rolling. And this isn't Jay-Z's first time caught up in controversy over hidden secrets. For years, he's been battling claims of an undisclosed son, specifically the case of Rymir Satterthwaite, now in his 30s. Court records show multiple attempts to make Jay-Z take a DNA test, each time met with refusal from his legal team. Judges in New Jersey and Pennsylvania ended up dismissing those petitions, pointing to technical issues like jurisdiction and missed deadlines. Still, those rejections only fueled the whispers. And now, with this new round of alleged evidence, the past is coming back louder than ever. But this year, Rymir Satterthwaite's name roared back into the headlines like it never left.
Jay?
Yeah.
At this point? Nah, I would want, why?
The revived lawsuit is claiming that Jay-Z's own attorneys pulled off procedural fraud to block him from ever taking a DNA test. The new filing, dropped in late November, accuses the state court system of straight-up obstruction and demands that sealed records be reopened. Now, everyone's wondering, are these legitimate legal moves or just another strategic play in a bigger, messier war? What's got people talking even more is the timing. These new papers landed only days before Jay-Z's name popped up in Diddy's ongoing scandal, and that coincidence has fueled every suspicion imaginable. Behind all this legal chaos is a long, tangled relationship between two of hip-hop's biggest moguls. From their first collaborations back in 1997 to their polished brotherhood moments at the Rock Nation brunches, Jay-Z and Diddy built an image of unshakable loyalty and joint success. They donated millions after Hurricane Katrina, celebrated each other's wins, and stood side by side at nearly every major event for over 20 years. But now, those same glossy photos are being picked apart like evidence. Former associates are coming forward saying their friendship wasn't really about brotherhood. It was about mutual protection. Some even describe it as an unspoken pact to keep certain nights out of public sight. When Diddy's ex-partner Cassie testified in court about private gatherings filled with substances and paid participants, investigators started noticing that many of those nights lined up with events Jay-Z was rumored to attend. What makes the alleged son's claims so explosive isn't just that he's tied to Jay-Z by blood. It's the idea that he's sitting on evidence from those very same nights. Insiders who claim to have seen the files say the videos show A-list guests and scenes that could raise serious questions about what really went down, including blurred consent and silence from people who should have known better. That's why the whispers flying around the entertainment world right now are wild. People are saying that powerful middlemen have already reached out to the young man, offering secret settlements dressed up as support funds. Nothing's been officially confirmed, but even the rumor has made him both a target and a possible key witness in one of the biggest scandals hip-hop has ever seen. The emotional weight behind all of this can't be ignored. It's more than legal drama. It's personal. Rymir Satterthwaite has said loud and clear that he's not chasing money. He wants acknowledgement and justice for himself and for others who say they were hurt by that same world of fame and control. But critics online are calling him out, saying that by linking his accusations to Diddy's criminal case, he's turning personal pain into power. Still, legal insiders see something sharper at play. They say this could be a strategy masked as chaos. If his testimony ends up connecting Jay-Z to anything that falls under federal watch, prosecutors could actually use one man's story to pressure the other into cooperation. That's when family bonds turn into bargaining chips. In a world where both Jay-Z and Diddy are already being examined under a microscope, the mere threat of new evidence is enough to shake the entire network of billionaires, execs, and stars around them. The tension is unbelievable, and it's only getting thicker by the day.
I mean, let's just be real for a second. There are a lot of lawyers who call this legal extortion, and that this is the way the legal system works, which is you threaten somebody with reputational harm. And in this case, it's interesting that Jay-Z, who's very wealthy, said it would be financial ruin.
Meanwhile, Diddy's time in prison hasn't exactly silenced the rumors either. Reports from Fort Dix claim he's still running a quiet network, getting visits from ex-business partners, athletes, and even industry insiders. That kind of access behind bars has people saying his influence still stretches far beyond those walls. And that detail alone adds serious weight to what the alleged son is saying. Because if insiders really trusted him enough to hand over confidential material, it means they still believe Diddy's reach in the industry could be dangerous. People close to the case insist they're not after profit. They want exposure. They see Rymir as the one person left with nothing to lose and everything to reveal. And you can't overlook how these threads are tangled together. Diddy's legal collapse, Jay-Z's long silence, and the sudden reappearance of a man who's been fighting for recognition ever since his mother passed. Every new statement, every fresh court filing drags more names into the spotlight, and with each reveal, the same haunting question keeps echoing. What's really on those recordings? This story isn't just about a son demanding recognition from a father, it's about someone claiming to hold the one thing Jay-Z and Diddy absolutely cannot afford the world to see. If what he's saying is real, the fallout won't just wreck reputations. It could spark criminal consequences that change everything. Now, rumors are spreading that more witnesses are gearing up to step forward, each one supposedly holding their own copies of explosive evidence. It's wild to think that this saga might only be in its early stages, because the deeper it goes, the darker it looks. Meanwhile, Jay-Z's legal team has gone full counterattack, but not in the way anyone expected. Instead of directly confronting the claims or explaining what those mysterious recordings might contain, they've shifted their focus to tearing down the man behind the allegations. In court filings, they've labeled his paternity fight as a decades-long harassment campaign, a phrase that's being repeated again and again across official documents, almost like they want it etched permanently into the public's mind. They're arguing that every accusation, every claim of family betrayal, every mention of hidden evidence is part of a long game of what they call legal manipulation. But the irony hasn't gone unnoticed, because the alleged son says those same lawyers have quietly reached out to him multiple times, offering money, not to recognize him, but in his words, to make me disappear. That twist has left people stunned. Right now, this is a battle of narratives sharp enough to cut both sides. One camp calls it extortion, the other calls it intimidation. And everyone's asking the same question: which story has more to lose if it's actually true? The tension's boiling because what's at stake isn't just pride, it's potential criminal exposure. If those alleged recordings exist, and if they truly capture what insiders are hinting at, private acts involving vulnerable individuals and disturbing power dynamics, then Jay-Z's problems stretch far beyond family court. These tapes could open the door to federal charges, not just public embarrassment. The industry's watching with wide eyes because they've already seen what happens when prosecutors get involved. And those were just narrow charges by legal standards. If any new material ends up linking Jay-Z to acts involving underage victims or coercive situations, the penalties could make Diddy's 50-month sentence look like a slap on the wrist. That's exactly why both investigators and gossip outlets are now circling back to that massive March 2024 raid on Diddy's Miami mansion. Agents from multiple federal departments stormed the property, seizing computers, phones, and stacks of hard drives. And ever since, people have been asking the same chilling question: were they looking for the same footage that Jay-Z's alleged son claims to have? Or was that raid really an early move to lock down a scandal that's only now bursting into the open? The timing can't just be brushed off. That raid went down months before Diddy's official indictment, back when both he and Jay-Z were still showing up at elite events, smiling for cameras like nothing was brewing. Insiders say that during those exact months, the communication between their camps spiked. More encrypted messages, more private flights, and quiet, unlisted meetups in cities they never publicly mentioned. It's got everyone wondering what kind of conversations were happening behind those closed doors. Former security contractors have even hinted that sensitive storage materials, servers, hard drives, encrypted devices were quietly removed from properties tied to both moguls around that same time. Law enforcement hasn't confirmed any of this, but the pattern is hard to ignore. For decades, their fortunes rose together, but now their scandals seem to be crashing in sync too. And beneath all that money, fame, and power, the emotional tension is raw. Why would any alleged victims or insiders trust Jay-Z's supposed son with such dangerous material? That question has split the public straight down the middle. Some people say he's the only one outside that powerful inner circle who's got nothing left to lose. Someone fueled by years of resentment and ready to expose the truth no matter what it costs. But others think he's being played. They say he's just a pawn in a bigger game, a weapon being used by powerful enemies who want to make Jay-Z and Diddy turn on each other until both of their empires collapse from the inside. We've seen that kind of manipulation before in the music industry, when loyalty falls apart under too much pressure and too many secrets. Meanwhile, the world's already seen Diddy's letters from prison, the ones he wrote before and after sentencing, talking about losing his way and being humbled to the core. His words sounded like repentance on paper, but people who actually know him say those letters read more like strategy than soul-searching. The man once known as Puff Daddy is now sitting in a New Jersey correctional facility, reportedly mentoring younger inmates. But insiders say he's still keeping control of parts of his business through quiet middlemen. And that raises a serious question. If Diddy truly has no knowledge of those controversial videos, then why are his lawyers still filing motion after motion about the digital evidence seized during that 2024 raid on his Miami mansion? And if those recordings are really as harmless as his team claims, why are his old associates suddenly whispering that those same files helped trigger his downfall? Something doesn't add up here, and everyone knows it. On the other side of the chaos, Jay-Z's silence feels anything but accidental. It's calculated. He's avoided mentioning the alleged son's claims directly, keeping his distance and choosing his words with precision. The only statements he's made publicly since the lawsuit dropped have been about denying the disturbing civil accusations tied to Diddy's infamous 2000 after-party. But behind closed doors, his team's working overtime. Sources close to the case say his entire legal strategy can be summed up in two sharp words: discredit and delay. Court insiders say his lawyers have asked for multiple extensions to respond, citing procedural red tape, all while working in the shadows to map out the alleged son's communication network. The goal seems clear: contain the leak before any footage can spread. But here's the twist. Nobody really knows if the footage even exists or if it's already slipped beyond control. Industry veterans are now whispering that copies might already be circulating overseas. One insider who claims to have worked in post-production for a luxury brand campaign revealed that months ago, a third-party consultant bragged about being approached with very compromising entertainment footage tied to a major artist. Another insider just dropped a bombshell, claiming that a group of journalists in London was secretly offered encrypted files said to contain footage from Diddy's legendary white parties back in the early 2000s. None of this can be officially confirmed, but just the rumor alone has turned the entire industry radioactive. Every anonymous post, every so-called leak is adding to the tension, making it feel like someone's been setting up a long, dangerous game that's finally coming to life. But behind all the noise and speculation, one question keeps cutting through the chaos. What does Jay-Z's alleged son really want? On one hand, he talks about justice and truth. On the other, critics accuse him of chasing headlines and trying to cash in on media attention or secret settlements. His supporters say that's cold-hearted. They argue that no amount of money could ever erase the pain of being ignored by a father who built his career preaching authenticity and loyalty. Still, skeptics can't help pointing out how perfectly timed his revelations are, dropping right when Jay-Z's reputation is taking its hardest hit in years. So, what's this really about? Is this vengeance dressed up as righteousness? Or raw courage aimed at breaking the silence around power and privilege? The line between the two is getting harder to see. Psychologically, this whole mess cuts deep. Jay-Z and Diddy once represented the two halves of hip-hop royalty. Brooklyn grit and Harlem polish, ambition and indulgence. They didn't just get rich off music, they redefined the image of control and untouchable success. But now, that image is cracking fast. Diddy's empire has already fallen apart under the crushing weight of legal battles, while Jay-Z's still stands like a fortress under siege. Yet even that fortress is trembling. Not because of gossip blogs or social media, but because of something way more personal. Family. The betrayal feels close, almost intimate, and that's what's making this scandal hit differently. Right now, it's not even clear whether the truth, whatever it turns out to be, will destroy them through exposure or through sheer paranoia. Because once trust collapses at that level, everyone starts looking over their shoulder. That's exactly why Jay-Z's legal team is scrambling to brand the alleged son's story as a hoax. They know that once even a shred of real evidence hits the surface, denial won't save them anymore. But here's the thing. The harder they push back, the more people start asking why the focus is on silencing the messenger instead of clearing the truth. It's got everyone wondering what's really going on behind those polished press statements and corporate smiles. Sources close to the chaos are whispering about the possible involvement of other major names in entertainment. Figures so big that if confirmed, this could turn into the biggest scandal the music industry has ever seen. The rumor is that these recordings might not just implicate rappers, but powerful executives, producers, and even high-profile donors with political ties. That thought alone has the entire industry holding its breath. Behind closed doors, there's panic. Confidential calls being made to crisis PR firms, and major brands quietly pulling back from anything tied to Roc Nation. None of this has been addressed publicly yet, but at this point, the silence is speaking louder than any official statement ever could. The tension's insane, and every new hint online makes it worse. From prison, Diddy's writing letters claiming he's searching for peace, while Jay-Z's avoiding cameras completely. And that alleged son? He's teasing online that more receipts are coming soon. If that's real, if those next drops actually happen, the fallout could be catastrophic. Because here's the reality. If even 1 second of those recordings shows what insiders claim, we're no longer talking about lawsuits or PR spin. We're talking about criminal charges, destroyed careers, and the possible collapse of a cultural dynasty built over decades. Jay-Z's lawyers are calling the claims frivolous. Diddy's camp says the videos don't exist. But come on, if that's true, why does it seem like both sides are working so hard to make sure nobody ever sees them? Maybe this isn't about justice anymore. Maybe it's about survival. Because when power starts to slip, everyone grabs what they can before the whole empire burns down. And that's the question no one in their circle wants to face. What happens when the truth finally leaks? And it's not the story they built their legacy on. So what do you think? Is this the beginning of hip-hop's biggest reckoning, or just another masterclass in distraction from 2 of its smartest power players? Drop your thoughts below. Like, comment, and share what you think's really happening behind the scenes. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into the stories shaking the culture. The storm's just getting started. So stay curious, stay sharp, and remember, what's whispered in private always finds its way to the light.